Listen, I get it. You want to get into collecting crusty ass games, but you can't afford it. It's an expensive hobby, especially if you're anything like me and don't go outside. But there's tons of games out there worth a damn or two for pretty low prices if you know where to look. For example, my copy of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 was only about $15, Tomb Raider 2 was around 10, and Super Monkey Ball was 28. Now, compared to the prices of those other games, $28 might sound like a lot of money, but compared to the prices of other GameCube games, that's a steal. My local game store has shelves full of cheap games, which I have dubbed the bargain shelves. It's like a bargain bin, but a bit more socially acceptable to dig through. The section that I found has the most bang for my buck is the PlayStation 1 section. There's tons of games on it for like $5. Whether they're anything good or not is what we're gonna find out. So here's what I'll do. I'm gonna go to this store with a fat $20 in a dream in the hopes of finding a good game, and I'll tell you how it went. So, after sifting through the mountain of yearly sports games on these bargain shelves, I came back with two games, Cool Borders 4 for $5 and SimCity 2000 for $10. Now, you see, I don't actually know anything about these games, let alone if they're even good, because I thought it'd be neat and fun to not look anything up about the games I was buying. I guess we'll see if that was a mistake soon enough. Now, do keep in mind, I am in no way a competent reviewer of anything, so take what I say with a hefty bowl or two of salt. Today, we'll be looking at Cool Borders 4. I'll be making one video each on these games, so stay tuned for the SimCity 2000 video later. Well, it might not be the best sign that the first thing I see when I look this game up is that IGN gave it a 4, but I guess they aren't really known for their consistent game reviews, so I'll reserve my judgment. The #1 snowboarding series returns. Oh man, I love Rabbids! Alright, let's pop this bad boy in and... oh, hello! Alright, Cool Borders 4, you don't have to do a lot to be worth my $5, so don't mess this up, alright? Yeah, it's not bad. Nothing great, but for $5, there's a solid amount of content here. The main single-player mode is 3 different difficulty levels, each with 5 locations with 6 different events, all of them being pretty simple. The downhill event is a simple race, but it's easily the best mode. At first I wasn't feeling it, because for some reason the pre-made boards the game starts you out with just don't have the speed to catch up to other racers if you ever even slightly lose speed. However, you can make your own boards and make them as fast as you want so you can leave those losers in the dust. Or snow, I guess. Pro tip, for races, just put as much speed on your board as you can. You're gonna need it. The courses are all pretty good and fun to race through with tons of cool set pieces to trick off or just kinda look at sometimes. I also love how some of these races have cool shortcuts you can do, like going down an old mineshaft to skip over a big portion of the race, which you will need to do since the other racers can and will take them. Next up is Slopestyle. Slopestyle is your standard points mode, and it's pretty great too. The trick controls did take a little while to get used to for me, but once I did, it was pretty fun. It can get pretty satisfying planning out a route down the hill and executing it. Not much else to say about Slopestyle. It's a very simple mode, but a pretty damn fun one at least. Although I cannot say the same about Halfpipe. I get it, it's a staple of these types of games, but I just do not think it's done very well here. This mode is lame, it's like Slopestyle but worse in every single way. Unlike in Slopestyle, there's not much variety in how you go about actually earning points. You just sort of launch yourself in the air and spin a bunch. It's also pretty difficult to tell when you're actually gonna land. Sometimes it looks like you shouldn't but do, and other times it's the opposite. Although this is a problem with the game in general, it's by far the most apparent in this mode. A similar thing can be said about this game's air trick system as well. Sometimes I can be holding the input needed for a trick, and it just seems like it decides not to work. Now, it's entirely possible that I'm missing something here, but it's still pretty annoying. I know I'm making this mode sound terrible, but it's not abhorrent. You can get some base level fun out of just spinning really fast, but I find that there's almost no reason to play this mode over Slopestyle or the next mode coming up. Speaking of which, Big Air is pretty good. Like the rest of this game, it's nothing incredible, but it's good, simple fun. This mode's just about doing the best air tricks possible on giant drops, so kinda like Halfpipe, but a lot more fun. This is probably due in part to the fact that after landing an air trick, you need to take a while to gain back your speed, which is a bit awkward in the context of Halfpipe, but here it's not a problem. Here, the game actually gives you enough time to get back up to speed. These levels can get pretty interesting too. In the Colorado one, there's this bridge you jump over, and I thought that was pretty cool. Although, like Slopestyle, there's not really much to say about this mode. A lot of my thoughts in these modes can just be summed up with the phrase simple but fun, unless the mode isn't very good. Speaking of which, on to CBX. In this mode, you just have to go through these gates right along the mountain. A fine idea in concept, but in practice, I just didn't find this mode to have a lot of value. The first stage in Vermont sucks mega ass. It's too windy for its own good, and I can never seem to turn fast enough to go through these gates quickly. Now, I know you might be saying, oh, just do what you did with the downhill races and put all your stats into response so you can turn better. Well, yes, this does make you turn sharper. It doesn't make you any faster. You still have to slow to a crawl whenever you need to do a sharp turn. Hey, editing Iggy here. Yeah, disregard that last statement. Turns out if I just pressed the square button, the one button that wasn't already being used for something else, I'd see that you can turn faster. So, yeah, my opinions on CBX aren't as harsh now. Alright, carry on with the video. The second stage in Colorado was fine enough, but the gates are all just in a straight path, so they're pretty hard to miss. At that point, it's basically just a shorter downhill race. So at its worst, this mode is slow and clunky, and at its best, it's just a worse version of something else. So yeah, in my opinion, there's no real reason to play this one. These modes make up the bulk of what you'll be doing in this game, but there are a few smaller offerings as well. More specifically, the Trickmaster mode. I found this to be pretty handy in getting used to the controls, but after that I didn't really have a reason to go back to this. The only real value I can see myself getting out of this mode is for completion purposes. Well, after familiarizing myself with what this game has to offer in single player mode, I might as well get a friend over and try out the multiplayer. One problem. I don't really have any friends. Not since the incident. So I threw up some posters around town to see if anyone wants to come and play this thing with me. What the hell?
Cool board is 4.
Cool board is 4. So, turns out, I only had one PS1 controller, so we had to improvise. Well, that sure was Cool Borders 4, but with one other person. It's about as good as the single player is, but I found that it's not super easy to get someone who's never played into this. After all, this game does have a little bit of a learning curve. You can't just sit down and get it immediately. So yeah, the multiplayer is pretty good, but nothing really to write home about. It's exactly what you'd expect. Most of the fun we got out of this was just us goofing off and laughing at this game's jank. Speaking of jank, this game has it. It's not as bad as some other games from this era, but it hasn't aged as gracefully as something like the Tony Hawk games, for example. Alright, you know what time it is. It's time for everyone's favorite game show, Clunky Crunch. I'm your host, Crunchy Craig, and I'm not paid enough to be here. This is the show where our contestant must name as many clunky mechanics as he can until the time runs out. 3, 2, 1, go. The game turns around every time you hit something, so when there's a corner comprised of 2 things to hit, it can get pretty hard to get out of. Sometimes when you're jumping off a ramp, it'll just trip you right as you jump. As I said before, it's a bit hard to tell when you're actually going to land from a trick. It's hard to just do 90-degree rotations with the triggers. It always rotates you 180 degrees, which isn't ideal for getting out of a grind. Also, my back hurts. Yeah, as you can tell, this game is not perfect in any way. But nothing's perfect, and this game is good fun, if a bit sloppy at times. Alright, let's rate this thing. Looking at this game as something you would pay full price for, I'd say it's alright. Again, it's fun, but not everything here in this package is a winner. But if you're looking for cheap games to add to your collection, you can do a whole lot worse than this game. Whether you're looking for a single-player experience or something to play with a friend, you'll find it here. Which is why I give this game my highest, and only, score yet of, yeah, it's a pretty good buy. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then consider subscribing and leaving a like. And if you want to find more of my videos, well, you won't really find any at the end of this, because this is my first video. If you are watching after the SimCity 2000 video, then it might be here. I don't know. That's up to post now Iggy, which is not me. See ya.